Recently I did a video looking at the comparisons between several Leofoto tripods that are available in South Africa and around the world, which were marketed at that stage pretty much for the same price. Now, one of the questions that came up in the YouTube comments section was, why not look at the LS-324CEX and put that in the comparison as well? Wasn't really part of the actual video, of course. So I did think about it, and now I am in Leofoto, which is on South Africa's wild coast. It's an extraordinary location, and I suddenly have the opportunity to look at the LS-324C and the LS-324CEX, because one of the photographers who's joined me here has the 324, whereas my personal tripod is the 324CEX. Okay, straight off, looking at the two, you can see at the lowest position there is an obvious difference already. Now, the similarities are that both tripods are made from the same 10 by carbon fiber layer. They each have 4 sections to them, so you can see the 3 little knuckles, or the 3 leg locks on each of the tripods. They each have the same sort of spider controls at the top. They have the same feet. They have the same payload of 15 kilograms as well. But the ostensible difference comes into the fact that the 324CEX is a self-leveling tripod. This basically means that the tripod itself has a level. Alright, so when you are trying to shoot panoramics, or if you're shooting video, it means that you can use the level to get the tripod level and be able to shoot from there with a level platform. The 324C, on the other hand, doesn't have the level. It is a standard Ranger tripod. It just has the normal spider at the top, and that's it. But, and this is the critical difference that people don't realize, is that the heights of the tripods are also very different. If I look at the packed dimensions of the 324, it comes to a very svelte, I think it's something like 480 millimeters without the ball head on top. So that's very, very small and packable. The 324CEX, on the other hand, when you pack it, is somewhat longer. In fact, it's almost 90 millimeters longer. And that's due to the actual leveling head, as well as the fact that the length of the top tube and the tubes thereafter are slightly longer. Now, that's going to make a difference if you are shooting out in the field and you happen to be a taller photographer, but it also makes a difference to how easily packable your tripod is. The 324 is obviously very, very short. At the moment, it's got an LH36 head on it, but without the head, 480 millimeters thereabout, compared to 570 millimeters with the 324CEX. So the first thing you're going to think about, obviously, is going to be, how packable is my tripod? But the big advantage of having a slightly longer tripod is that you are going to get more height. So when I actually extend these tripods, so I'll extend the 324C over here, and we put this next to the 324CEX, this is where the major difference now comes in. The 324C has a working height of around 1.310 meters, so 1,308 millimeters, so 1 meter, 1.3 meters. The 324CEX, on the other hand, has a working height of, I think it's 1.56 meters. So there is a significant difference in terms of how high the tripod is when you're actually working on it out in the field. Now, of course, there is another trade-off if you were to decide between the two tripods, and that comes down to weight. Now, I've already mentioned that both tripods take a payload of 15 kilograms, which is pretty impressive for tripods that weigh this little. You can't really say they weigh a lot. However, there is a difference between their weights. Without the ball heads attached to the tripods, there's 200 grams difference in terms of weight. The LS-324C weighs a very svelte 1.4 kilograms without the ball head. The LS-324CEX, on the other hand, weighs 1.61 kilograms, so 210 grams difference. Now, if you think in terms of something that's readily available, that's essentially 2 tins of tuna. Now, if you are walking somewhere in the mountains, those 2 tins of tuna actually make a difference to the actual weight that you're able to carry. So if you are traveling somewhere, it is one of the criteria you need to consider. What about the fact that you have a leveling base on the 324CEX? Obviously the 324 doesn't have one. However, you can upgrade the tripod head in a way by adding the leveling base, the LB60N. Now this is around, I suppose, about 7 centimeters long, and adding it to the tripod means you now actually have a leveling tripod in the same sense on your 324C. The advantage of this as well is that the actual setup is going to be a little bit cheaper than the 324CEX, and it's also going to weigh less. So if you desperately need low weight, you want the thick leg tubes of the 324 series, which means that it's got a 32mm top leg section diameter. If you need those, but you still want slightly less weight than the 324CEX, then you can get a 324 and add the LB60N leveling base to it. So you can have the best of both worlds. You can't get the height though without adding a center column. That's something that is unique to the 324CEX, and it was part of the reason I purchased this particular tripod. I wanted to have working height. If I stand next to the tripod, as you can see over here, if I add a camera to the top of the 324CEX, I am standing at my full height and I'm able to look through the viewfinder. If I add it to the 324C, it's not the same. Now, if I actually were to put this on, let's pop this inside there, you'll see that I'm actually going to stoop down to be able to look through the actual, through the viewfinder. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're always going to be working at the full operating height of the tripod itself, but it does give you more opportunity to be able to move the foot to a different position. Let's say you're working on the rocks like we are over here, and you need your leg to stretch slightly further. The 324CEX has an advantage, an inherent advantage over the 324C because it has longer legs. The advantage that the 324C has over the CEX is it's going to fit into a significantly smaller bag. So how exactly does the leveling base work? If I'm trying to take a photograph of a landscape and I'm wanting to do a panoramic, or if I'm wanting to do video and I need to have a level base so that I can pan accurately without a sliding or sloping horizon, all I do is I set up my tripod as I would normally do. Then I grab my little lever on the side of the tripod, I loosen that, and using the leveling bubble, I'm able to then level the entire tripod, which means that I have a panning motion that is exactly 180 degrees. The LB60N works in a similar fashion. Rather than having the little locking knob on the side of the LS-324CEX, it has a locking collar. All you do is you twist the collar, adjust based on your little spirit bubble, lock, and you have a level horizon again. As I mentioned in my last video, there's essentially a tripod for anybody. There's different heights, sizes, weights, different lengths. You've got to decide based on your required needs for the photography you're going to be shooting. The LS324 and the 324CEX sound like they're the same tripod, but the only real similarity they have, apart from like the components that they basically comprise of, is that they are 4-section tripods with a 32mm diameter top leg section. The legs are different lengths. The apex at the top, the shoulder, or spider as they sometimes call it, has a different kind of componentry on it. The one has a built-in leveling base, whereas the other does not. One advantage of buying the 324, of course, is that you actually get a little center column with it. So if you need the extra height, you can add it. But for the most part, most Ranger users don't ever use those center columns. They buy the Ranger because it doesn't have a center column, for the very reason that it is more stable, it's lighter, it's easier to use in the field. Yeah. If you enjoyed this video and you feel like watching a couple more, I suppose, you can always subscribe to the channel. If you want to ask a couple of questions, you can leave a comment in the comments below this particular video, or you can even email me on emil@natureslight.co.za, or better yet, come join me on a workshop like we are at the moment. I'm going to be heading out in a short while. We're just waiting for the light to hopefully get interesting, and then we're going to be capturing some more of these images of these incredible waves just exploding behind me. It's a fantastic place to be. Anyway, thanks for watching. Pop a like into the corner if you'd like. I hope to see you again soon. Cheers.